I'll cut to the chase, I'm the villainess in this story. Everyone in this wealthy, elite family adored my poor, fragile adopted sister. My older brother Damien would snap, "Don't scare Bella, her weak heart can't take it." My other brother, Magnus, would add, "Lend Bella your nightgown, all right? It's wasted on you." Even my fiancé said, "This is nothing more than a marriage of convenience, my true love has always been Bella." In my last life, I humbled myself endlessly to please them. What did I receive in return? They sent me to a mental asylum and I died in agony. Then I came back to life on the day of my engagement party. A voice echoed in my mind and made its announcement. "The Magnus reward system has chosen you, Marceline Blanc. Any unhinged behavior will earn rewards worth hundreds of millions of dollars." I grinned and sent the pompous, 10-tier cake crashing to the floor. "I'm done with this shitty family, goodbye, you miserable bastards." The banquet hall erupted as a bespoke 10-layer cake smashed onto the floor, cream and fillings bursting outward and splattering every unfortunate soul within reach. Then the hall fell deathly silent. Damien was the first to recover. He stormed toward me and lifted his hand. "What the hell? Have you lost your mind? You could have scared Bella to death, you know she can't handle shocks like this." In my last life, I would have collapsed to my knees, sobbing and begging him not to hit me. I would have sworn I never meant any harm. But now, a sweet, almost angelic computerized voice chimed inside my head. 3-star Magnus, reward, $15 million. My phone vibrated. I glanced at the screen. Oh, sweet lord. I caught Damien's wrist, yanked it aside with all my strength, and followed through with a sharp slap across his face, the hardest I had ever delivered. The crowd gasped. Damien stared at me in disbelief. "Did you just hit me? Already lost a few brain cells from the impact?" I sneered and shook my hand to chase away the numbness. "Let this remind you who I am, dumbass. I'm the true heiress of the Blanc family. I wasn't adopted like Bella, so why the hell is she wearing my engagement dress?" For Star Madness, reward, $30 million. Cha-ching, the rush was intoxicating, and so was the sudden jump in my bank balance. Magnus hurried over, brushing past Gabriel Black along the way. He spared the would-be groom no attention and draped his coat around Bella Summers, as if she had just survived a major trauma. "That was completely uncalled for, Marceline," he shouted. "The only thing Bella did wrong was admire your dress. What's so terrible about sharing with your little sister? You don't even wear styles like this, why waste it on you? Just let her have it. Please, how could it not be my style when I was the one who flew all the way to the fashion capital of Perez to have it custom-made?" The process had taken 3 months and cost $1 million. And just before the party began, it vanished. Where else could it have gone? I marched up to Bella and fixed her with a hard stare. "Did you just call it a waste on me?" She shifted uneasily in Magnus' arms, eyes rimmed red. "I'm sorry, Marcy, I didn't know you'd be this upset. I thought it was the prettiest dress I've ever seen, and I only wanted to try it on. I'll take it off right now." She reached for the zipper, as if she meant to undress on the spot. If she actually did it, the resulting scandal would be something the Blanc family could never recover from. Just as I expected, Gabriel held her hand and glared at me. "When are you going to stop these hysterics, Marceline? Why are you acting like a madwoman over something as trivial as a dress?" he growled. "Look at her, don't tell me you still haven't realized it. The dress looks better on her than it ever could on you." Damien finally regained his composure and sneered. "He's right, unlike you, Bella actually knows how to behave like an heiress from an elite family." I laughed, then I laughed harder, until tears streamed down my cheeks. So this was my family, this was my husband. I had died like a dog in my last life for this den of douchebags. I grabbed a bottle of red wine. "You love this dress so much, bitch? Then take it." I slammed the neck of the bottle against the edge of the table and shattered it. Wine cascaded over Bella, soaking the dress and ruining her makeup. She shrieked, "My eyes! It hurts!" Magnus and Gabriel rushed to her side to clean her up. Meanwhile, Damien raised his fist as if he were asserting dominance. "You're asking for it," he shouted. I stepped back and tipped over the champagne tower beside me. The crisp, jaunty crash of expensive glasses shattering across the floor sounded like music. Damien froze and retreated from the spreading carpet of glass shards, along with several others. I stood amid the wreckage and pointed at these so-called heroes. "This is nothing more than a marriage of convenience to you, isn't it, Gabriel? Fine, have each other as much as you want. Unlike you all, I don't mistake trash for gourmet food. There's no better match than a dog and his bitch." I turned to my brothers. "As for you two simps, why don't you make Bella your sister and your heiress instead? Then you can lick her heels to your heart's content." I faced the stunned crowd. "From this moment on, I am cutting all ties with the Blanc family," I declared. Fuck this family." I kicked away what remained of the cake and strode toward the front door as if the place belonged to me. The crowd stared in stunned silence. Then my father's voice echoed, "Stand right there, Marceline. If you walk out that door, I swear to God you won't get a single cent from this family. I'll cancel every goddamn card you have. Let's see how long you last living like a peasant." I halted and turned back, flashing him my brightest smile. "Yes, yes, yes, freedom from your filthy money? Thank God. Why would I need their money anyway when I had the Magnus reward system? I could make millions in the blink of an eye, bitches. Throwing a fit against the blanks and severing your ties with them, 5-star Magnus, reward, $150 million. Your first quest has been completed, rewards for completing the newbie challenge, an ultra-luxury apartment in the heart of the city and a luxury car parked outside the hotel. My heels echoed through the silent banquet hall as I walked toward my freedom without sparing anyone a glance. A blazing red sports car waited outside. I reached into my purse and found the keys already inside. I slid into the driver's seat and slammed my foot down on the pedal. The roar of the exhaust cut through the air and rattled the windows of the doorman station. My phone vibrated nonstop. I did not need to check it to know every message came from the den of douchebags I used to call my family. I powered the phone off and tossed it onto the passenger seat. The MRS had already set the coordinates to my new home. I followed the directions and drove straight toward Paradiso Castle. Paradiso Castle was the most expensive property in the entire city. Having enough money did not guarantee the right to buy it, which only proved how absurdly generous the MRS truly was. I stood behind a 600-square-yard, floor-to-ceiling window, gazing at the city's nightscape while red wine sloshed gently in my glass. I had never felt more at peace. In my last life, I must have been genuinely brain-dead to believe they would love me simply because I obeyed every command. Oh, I was so loved. I turned my phone over and braced myself for the flood of messages and missed calls. "Where the hell are you? My dear mother," Lucy shrieked in a voice message, her voice sharp enough to pierce stone. "Get your ass back here and apologize to Bella, now. Do you have any idea how much shame you brought on us today? Poor Bella hasn't stopped crying." Damien's text followed soon after. "Damien, running out of money already now that Dad terminated your cards? Once you finally get tired of starving yourself, you can come back on your knees and beg for forgiveness. We might consider mercy if you show enough sincerity. And finally, Gabriel. Gabriel, enough with your theatrics. Marceline, you embarrassed me today, but I am willing to be magnanimous. Come to my office tomorrow, and I may consider not canceling our marriage." I stared at the screen and laughed. Look at all these clowns. They truly believe I am homeless and penniless just because I left the blanks. I sent a photo to Damien, showing a small glimpse of my bank balance, $10 million, give or take. I added a caption, "Call me mommy, and maybe I'll buy you a wife." Then I blocked his number. Next was Gabriel. I sent him a voice message. "I've always been curious about something. Are you actually impotent? One would think Bella would have stopped being a virgin by now, given how often you two are together. Instead, she looks like she's wilting." Satisfied, I blocked him as well. Finally, Lucy's turn arrived. "Stop screaming into the void, just pretend I died and move on with your life. After all, the only one you ever needed was Bella, right? I was just an accessory. May you all live like royalty during the revolution, with lives as long as the space newspapers reserve for obituaries." I blocked the last number. Silence reclaimed the world. Delivering emotional damage to family, 3-star Magnus, reward, $7 million. I collapsed onto my Italia genuine leather couch and sighed in contentment. Making money really was not that hard. Still, it was not enough. The pain and suffering they had inflicted on me in my last life ran too deep. I wanted them to see who their precious, innocent Bella Summers truly was. After that, I wanted them to stare up at me in despair, forced to acknowledge my dominance and the height I had reached. I now stood at an apex they would never touch. The next morning, the doorbell dragged me out of sleep. I peered through the peephole and saw Magnus. How the hell did he find out I lived here? Of course, he was a hacker. Tracking my phone would have been effortless for him. There was no reason to rush. I brushed my teeth and washed my face at my own unhurried pace, then opened the door. He looked livid. "How the hell did you get in here? Where did you get all this money? What is this place, a rental?" His eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Don't tell me you debased yourself and sold your body just to get a pathetic edge over us, Marceline. How else could you afford this place after Dad terminated your cards?" I leaned against the door and yawned. "Man, your language, you kiss Bella's boo-boo with that mouth?" "Marceline." Magnus snarled. He drew a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. "Come home with me. Bella has been running a high fever since last night. She keeps calling for you and says she feels guilty. Mom and Dad are worried sick. Go back, apologize, and we'll treat all of this as water under the bridge." I narrowed my eyes and let a slow grin spread across my face. A fever? Oh, the Lord really does punish injustice. Has it started eating away at the pitiful number of brain cells she has left? You know, you could always institutionalize her in that mental asylum you were scouting for me. In my last life, my dear family had forcibly institutionalized me for being hysterical and aggressive. It had been pure torment. Magnus' face darkened. What the hell are you talking about? Since when did you turn into such a douchebag, Marceline? Bella is one of the kindest, purest girls I've ever met. How could you curse her like that? Kind? Pure? I snorted. What kind and pure soul tries to steal her sister's fiancé? What kind and pure soul steals her sister's engagement dress? Magnus, are you slow? That's not what happened. Bella was just. Can it? I don't care, I snapped. You just want me back so Bella can have her unwitting blood donor cattle, right? Well, not a snowball's chance in hell. Magnus roared and lunged for my shoulders. You fucking bitch. I tried playing nice, but you keep forcing my hand. Dad made it clear that if you're not back by today, you're dead to all of us. Before I could strike back, a mechanized voice rang inside my head. Quick quest unlocked. Let Magnus Blanc get a taste of free fall. Reward, 51% of Lumos Entreprises stocks. Lumos was the largest business empire in the city. Gabriel's company barely qualified as a warm-up act beside that juggernaut. I grabbed Magnus by the arm and flipped him over my shoulder. It took almost no effort. Magnus was the type who lived behind a computer screen, a basement-dwelling nerd with the physique of a couch potato. He hit the floor with a hard slam and let out a groan. I seized his leg and dragged him toward the balcony. Marceline, he screamed and struggled in vain. What do you think you're doing? Have you lost your mind? He could not break free. My strength was absurd, likely thanks to the MRS. The balcony sat on the 38th floor. I shoved him against the railing and tipped him forward until half his body hung over open air. The wind howled, his face drained of color as he clutched the rails with everything he had. Pete put me down. I'm your brother, damn it, don't kill me. I tapped his cheek. Brother? You really think I see you as one? TSK, TSK. Pass this message to the blanks, don't piss me off, because next time, my grip might turn magically weaker. Now get the hell out. Magnus bolted from my residence in a blur. He even left a shoe behind. I watched him flee and smiled. Quest completed. Your reward can be found in the safe box in the study. Well, things are only just getting started, I muttered. The safe in the study was hidden behind a laughably pretentious oil painting of a horse. I punched in the default code the MRS provided, and the heavy steel door clicked open. Inside sat a single, thick manila folder and a sleek black titanium access card. I flipped open the folder. There it was, printed in crisp, undeniable legal jargon. Certificate of majority ownership, 51% stake in Lumos Enterprise, shareholder, Marceline Blanc. I traced the embossed seal with my fingernail. Lumos wasn't just a company, it was the apex predator of the city's financial food chain. They owned real estate, tech, pharmaceuticals, and private banking. Gabriel's family company, Black Corp, was a tiny remora fish hoping to scavenge Lumos' leftovers, and my father's precious Blanc group relied on Lumos' supply chains just to keep their factories running. Let's see how long you last living like a peasant, my father had said. I smirked, tossing the documents onto the mahogany desk. I wasn't going to live like a peasant, I was going to be their god. My phone buzzed. It was a local news alert. Blanc family heiress hospitalized after sudden collapse. Attached was a paparazzi photo of Bella being carried out of the family mansion on a stretcher, Gabriel looking tragically handsome and devastated by her side. Right, Bella's illness. In my past life, her rare blood condition was the chain around my neck. We shared the same incredibly rare blood type, Rh null, the golden blood. The Blancs hadn't kept me around out of familial duty. They kept me as a walking, breathing blood bag. Every time Bella threw a tantrum, every time she stayed up late partying and her marrow failed to produce enough red blood cells, I was strapped to a chair and drained. They literally bled me dry to keep their precious adopted angel glowing. Not this time. New quest unlocked. Crash the Lumos Enterprise quarterly board meeting and assert dominance. Reward, master-level corporate hacking skills and $50 million. I opened my closet. The MRS had stocked it with custom designer pieces that made my ruined engagement dress look like a cheap Halloween costume. I pulled out a sharp, blood-red blazer, a pair of tailored black trousers, and 6-inch stiletto heels that looked sharp enough to puncture a jugular. It was time to go to work. The top floor of the Lumos Enterprise headquarters was a cathedral of glass and steel. As I stepped out of the private executive elevator, the titanium access card securely in my pocket, I could hear the muffled, booming voice of my father coming from the main boardroom. I didn't bother checking in with the shivering executive assistant at the desk. I just pushed the heavy double doors open. They hit the walls with a thunderous crack. The massive room fell dead silent. Sitting around the long obsidian table were the 12 board members of Lumos. Standing at the head of the table, pointer in hand, was my father, Richard Blanc. Gabriel sat to his right, wearing a smug, tailored suit, a stack of merger proposals in front of him. They were pitching for the Lumos Capital Investment Grant, a $2 billion lifeline. Richard's face purpled the moment he saw me. Marceline? What the hell are you doing here? Security. Who let this psychotic girl into the building? Gabriel stood up, adjusting his cuffs, looking at me with a mixture of pity and disgust. Marceline, this is a new low, even for you. Did you follow me here? I told you, if you want to beg for forgiveness, come to my office. Interrupting a multi-billion-dollar pitch is not going to win me back. I ignored them, my heels clicking methodically against the marble floor as I walked straight toward the head of the table. Mr. Sterling, I said, addressing the elderly, silver-haired CEO of Lumos who was staring at me in shock. I apologize for my tardiness. Traffic. Before anyone could stop me, I pulled the titanium black card from my blazer and tossed it onto the glass table. It slid perfectly across the surface, coming to a halt right in front of Sterling. Sterling's eyes went wide. He scrambled for his tablet, punching in a code. The giant projector screen behind my father suddenly flashed green. Access granted. Welcome, majority shareholder, Marceline Blanc. Gabriel's smug expression shattered. He blinked, looking from the screen to me, then back to the screen. What? Shareholder? What is this glitch? My father laughed nervously. Mr. Sterling, clearly there's been a cyber attack. My estranged daughter is many things, hysterical, jealous, currently broke, but she is not a shareholder. Shut up, Richard, Mr. Sterling snapped, his voice trembling as he stood up and bowed deeply toward me. Miss Blanc, we were notified of the sudden transfer of 51% of our shares this morning, but we didn't know it was you. Please, take your seat. Sterling scurried away from the head of the table, offering me the plush leather chair. I sat down, crossing my legs, resting my chin on my intertwined fingers. I looked up at my father, who was suddenly looking very small, and Gabriel, who looked like he was going to vomit. Continue your pitch, Mr. Blanc, I smiled, baring my teeth. You were just begging my company for $2 billion. I'm listening. For Star Madness, reward, master-level corporate hacking skills and $50 million transferred to your account. This is impossible. Gabriel slammed his hands on the table. You? Owning Lumos? You don't even know how to read a balance sheet. You've spent the last 3 years picking out floral arrangements for our wedding. Oh, Gabriel, I sighed, picking up his meticulously crafted merger proposal. I didn't even read it. I just tore it perfectly in half, right down the middle, and let the pieces flutter to the floor. I know enough to know that Black Corp's profit margins have been negative for 3 quarters, and you're relying on a shell company in the Caymans to hide your debt. I also know that if Lumos pulls its supply chain contracts with Blanc Group, my dear father's company will be bankrupt by Friday. My father grabbed his chest, staggering back a step. Marceline, Marcy, sweetheart, look, let's not let family squabbles ruin business. We're blood. Blood? I cut him off, my voice dropping to a dead, icy calm. I stood up and leaned over the table. You have no right to use that word with me. Lumos Enterprise declines your proposal. Furthermore, as of this exact second, Lumos is calling in all debts owed by Blanc Group and Black Corp. You have 48 hours to pay us the combined $300 million you owe in back-end logistics, or I am liquidating your assets. You can't do this. Richard roared, his face turning an apoplectic red. I'm your father. Bella is in the hospital right now because of your stunt last night. She needs a transfusion, Marcy. If you don't come back and give her your blood, she could die. There it was, the real reason they were panicking. Their supply was running dry. Then I guess you better start picking out a coffin, I whispered, the words dripping like venom. I hear mahogany is nice, or maybe you can just wrap her in my ruined engagement dress. I turned to the board members, who were sitting in terrified silence. Security, escort these 2 bankrupt vagrants off my property. If they resist, break their legs. 2 massive security guards marched in. Gabriel tried to shove one away, shouting my name, but the guard effortlessly pinned his arm behind his back, making him squeal like a pig. As they were dragged toward the elevators, I pulled out my phone. Oh, and Gabriel? I called out. He twisted his neck to look at me, his face pale with pain and humiliation. Check your phone. I just bought the mortgage to your family's estate. If you aren't out by tomorrow, I'm bulldozing it. Ruthless corporate execution, 5-star madness, reward, complete immunity to poisons and toxins plus $100 million. By the time I returned to Paradiso Castle that evening, the city was in absolute chaos. The stock market had reacted to Lumos' sudden severing of ties with the Blanc and Black families. Both companies' stocks were in freefall. I poured myself a glass of vintage scotch and pulled up my laptop. Thanks to the MRS rewarding me with master-level hacking skills, infiltrating the Blanc family's private servers took me exactly 3 minutes. Magnus, that basement-dwelling idiot, had terrible cybersecurity. I sifted through the hidden files on his drive. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. There were gigabytes of hidden security footage from the Blanc mansion. I clicked on a video dated from a month ago. It showed Bella in her bedroom. She wasn't coughing, she wasn't pale, and she certainly didn't look like she had a weak heart. She was aggressively making out with Gabriel against her vanity mirror. I fast-forwarded another video, this one from 2 weeks ago. Bella was in the private family hospital wing. She was sitting on the bed, smoking a vape, talking to my mother, Lucy. I don't even need a transfusion this month, Mom, Bella complained in the video, rolling her eyes, but Marcy is getting too arrogant about this wedding with Gabriel. We need to drain her a bit to keep her weak, remind her of her place. Of course, my sweet girl, Lucy cooed, stroking Bella's hair. We'll schedule an extraction for tomorrow. We'll tell her your marrow is failing again. A cold, murderous rage washed over me. The Scotch glass in my hand cracked under my grip, sending amber liquid and shards of crystal raining onto the rug. In my past life, that specific extraction had left me bedridden for a week. I had missed my final university exams because of it. Hidden plot discovered, triggering ultimate revenge quest. Expose the parasites and destroy their sanctuary. Reward, 100% control of the city's private medical sector and $500 million. System, I whispered, a dark, manic grin spreading across my face. You really do know how to spoil a girl. My phone rang. It was an unknown number, but I knew who it was. I answered it, putting it on speaker. Marcy? It was Bella. Her voice was weak, trembling, performing the perfect act of a dying swan. I'm at St. Jude's Hospital, she coughed pitifully. Marcy, please, the doctors say my levels are dangerously low. I know you hate me, I know I took your dress, but please, don't let me die. Come give me blood, I'll get on my knees and beg you. She was baiting a trap. They knew I wouldn't come willingly, which meant they had thugs or doctors on standby to sedate me the moment I walked through those hospital doors. It was the same playbook they used to send me to the asylum in my past life. I'll be right there, Bella, I said softly, injecting fake panic into my voice. Hold on, don't die yet. I hung up the phone. I wasn't going to give her blood, I was going to give her a show. St. Jude's private hospital was an elite facility entirely funded by the Blanks. The VIP wing was on the 8th floor. I arrived at midnight. The hospital corridors were eerily quiet. As I stepped out of the elevator, I noticed there were no nurses at the desk. Instead, 4 burly men in suits were standing outside room 801. Damien stepped out from the shadows, holding a syringe. He looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot, his tie undone. I didn't think you'd actually come, Damien sneered, stepping toward me. I guess your conscience finally kicked in, or maybe you're just as stupid as you've always been. Hello, Damien, still playing nursemaid for the fake invalid? His jaw tightened. Grab her, don't leave any bruises, it makes the blood draw difficult. The 4 men lunged at me. With the physical enhancements from the MRS, their movements looked like they were submerged in molasses. The first thug reached for my arm. I grabbed his wrist, twisted it until the bone popped with a sickening crunch, and kicked out his kneecap. He went down screaming. The second man pulled a baton. I ducked under his swing, drove an uppercut into his throat, and used his collapsing body as a vault to launch myself at the remaining 2. A swift spinning kick caught one in the temple, dropping him instantly. The last one hesitated, eyes wide with terror, before I grabbed him by his tie and smashed his face into the marble wall. In less than 10 seconds, 4 elite bodyguards were groaning on the floor in pools of their own blood. Damien dropped the syringe. He backed up against the wall, his hands shaking. What are you? You're a monster. No, Damien, I smiled, stepping over a groaning thug and picking up the syringe he had dropped. It was filled with a heavy sedative. I'm the villainess, there's a difference. Before he could scream, I jammed the needle into his neck and pushed the plunger. Damien's eyes rolled back into his head, and he collapsed like a sack of bricks. I kicked the door to room 801 open. Bella shrieked, scrambling back against the headboard of her hospital bed. There were no 4 lines in her arms, her cheeks were perfectly rosy. She wasn't dying, she was eating a bowl of imported grapes. My mother, Lucy, was sitting in the corner, reading a magazine. She dropped it, her face draining of color as she saw me step into the room, stepping over Damien's unconscious legs. Marcy! What did you do to your brother? Lucy screamed, running toward the door. I grabbed Lucy by the collar of her expensive Chanel blouse and threw her effortlessly back onto the sofa. Sit down, Mother, we're having a family meeting. I walked over to Bella's bed. She was trembling violently, real fear finally replacing her manufactured victimhood. Marcy, stay back. I'm sick. My heart. Your heart is as black and healthy as a vulture's, I interrupted, pulling out my phone. With a single tap, thanks to my hacking skills, I hijacked the hospital's intercom system and the televisions in every single patient room, waiting room, and lobby. What are you doing? Bella cried. Something long overdue, I said. I hit play on the files I had ripped from Magnus' server. On the giant flat-screen TV in Bella's room, and on every screen across the entire hospital, the video of Bella aggressively hooking up with Gabriel began to play. The audio echoed loudly through the hallways. Oh, Gabriel. Tell me you're gonna dump that pathetic bitch soon, Bella's voice moaned from the speakers. Bella's face turned the color of ash. Stop it. Turn it off. I swiped to the next video, the one of Bella and Lucy plotting to drain my blood just to keep me weak. Remind her of her place, the video echoed through the hospital. The Blanc family has been illegally harvesting my blood and falsifying medical records for years. I spoke into my phone, my voice broadcasting across the hospital intercom. They have bribed doctors at St. Jude's to fake a terminal illness to garner public sympathy and secure charity tax write-offs. I am Marceline Blanc, and I have just forwarded all medical records, video evidence, and financial ledgers to the FBI, the IRS, and every major news network in the country. Lucy burst into tears, dropping to her knees. Marcy, you've ruined us. You've ruined the family. How could you be so cruel? I knelt down, grabbing my mother's chin, forcing her to look at me. Cruel? You sent me to an asylum in my past life to rot and die because I asked for a sliver of your love. This isn't cruelty, Mother. This is pest control. Ultimate revenge quest completed. 100% control of the city's private medical sector secured. Reward, $500 million. Sirens began to wail in the distance. The police were already on their way. I stood up, smoothing out my blazer. I looked at Bella, who was curled into a fetal position, sobbing hysterically as her carefully constructed world of lies burned to the ground. Enjoy the cell, Bella, I said softly. I hear horizontal stripes are varying this season. 6 months later. The fall of the Blanc and Black families was the scandal of the decade. Without Lumos's backing, and with the sudden demand to repay their massive debts, both families filed for bankruptcy within a week, but bankruptcy didn't save them from the criminal charges. The evidence I released sparked a massive federal investigation. It turned out the illegal blood harvesting was just the tip of the iceberg. Richard Blanc was indicted for massive tax fraud, embezzlement, and bribing medical officials. He was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Damien and Magnus were implicated in the cover-ups and cybercrimes. Magnus tried to flee the country but was caught crying in a bus station restroom in Ohio. Both brothers got 10 years. Gabriel Black lost his company, his fortune, and his reputation. When the videos of him and Bella went viral, his conservative investors pulled out entirely. The last I heard, he was working as a valet at a mid-tier casino, forced to park the luxury cars he used to own. As for Bella and Lucy, I sat on the balcony of my penthouse at Paradiso Castle, sipping a glass of incredibly expensive, incredibly rare vintage wine. The city lights glittered below me like diamonds scattered across black velvet. My phone buzzed. It was an update from the director of the Blackwood Psychiatric Institute, the very asylum they had sent me to in my past life. Since I now owned 100% of the city's private medical sector, I owned Blackwood, too. The director had sent a weekly report. Patient Bella Summers continues to exhibit extreme delusions of grandeur, claiming she is a wealthy heiress. Patient Lucy Blanc enables these delusions. Both patients became violently hysterical when informed their cafeteria privileges were revoked for fighting, mild sedatives administered. I smiled, taking a slow sip of the wine. The taste of victory was rich, dark, and utterly intoxicating. They had called me a madwoman, they had called me a villainess. They were right. But as it turned out, being the villainess was the best damn thing that ever happened to me. Daily check-in complete, no new targets detected. The Madness reward system wishes you a pleasant and luxurious evening, host. I raised my glass to the empty sky, the cool night wind blowing through my hair. Cheers to that.